right, here we go.
All right.
So we're going to do a debrief for my standard 6, 7, and 8 video. It was a English language arts lesson on irregular past tense verbs. Steve just got done watching it. So
Yeah, just finished watching maybe a couple hours ago. I took some notes. So for the first standard, I believe it's assessment, formative and summative. I thought the giving the present verbs and asking for past tense was a good way at first to formatively assess the students, and also having the students match the cards and flip them over, and then being able to say a sentence with those words. It was an easy and quick way to get them to see their knowledge on the subject.
yeah, and I always had to do that because even could do it 100 times with the noun verbs adjectives, and they always need just a reminder because they get it mixed up. They know what they are, but they need to be put it in the right spot.
Yeah, I noticed. I think maybe it was Adam.
Yeah.
Who said? Yeah, he said a noun.
Yeah, he said a verb is a person, place, thing. But no.
Yeah, it's there. It's kind of, yeah, I get it. So I thought the assessment was good. You were doing it throughout the lesson, and you were giving everybody a chance to speak and show what they know. And then the second one, for analyze data, I just actually wanted to ask you this. What did you do to analyze what you found, and how did you record it?
Yeah, for the formative assessments, it's pretty informal. I was taking notes and giving kids stars for correct answers, and also having a notepad on the side for anybody who was struggling with it. That if at the end of the lesson that they're still struggling, I could know to revisit the material with whoever it was. That goes for the formative assessments, and then the data for the summative assessments is all logged into our grade books on the Florida Virtual School. At the end of the week, there's always a quiz, and then usually once a month is a whole module assessment. So that's the data.
Okay. That sounds good. What I did actually today with my class, you might want to do it too, is I just had my kids sit down and I filmed. Well, I had one today. Filmed them, asking them a few questions that stuff we learned about a month ago, to see if they remembered it and how they could answer on camera. It was just kind of a nice thing to have in the back, like extra data.
How did that go?
It was okay. It was tough because it was the first time they'd done it, and a little bit nervous with the camera, but the material was there. The knowledge was there. Okay, and then accommodations for under assessment is basically Adam in your class that needs a little bit of extra attention, and I thought the matching the cards for verbs in past tense and present was good for him to see it visually and to hear the other kids speak when they had to put the verbs into sentences. So he was able to get engaged, and I saw him go up there and he got on the floor. He's a bit silly, but he was able to get up and be part of the class.
Right. Yeah, and then right when the video cut out was when I was handing out the worksheets. Right at the end, you can see him turn around and say, "Mr. Bradley, help me." So for that, I have to help him one-on-one with that, while the other students can do it by themselves.
Okay. Yeah, so he gets assistance that way. Yeah. Okay. Also, when you were helping him with the cards, you were pointing to the cards and saying this, this, and this, these verbs. So as soon as he heard it, he knew it.
Right.
So it showed me that his knowledge is there.
Just the reading.
Yeah, getting his reading level up there. Okay. Okay, so that's for standard 6, I believe, that we finished. Standard 7, planning and for instruction. The evidence and tech tools, you basically use your own knowledge of the subject and taught it in a variety of ways. The Florida Virtual School gives you so many tools as well to use. Like I'm sure you've used probably more than I have lately with the younger kids. If you want to just explain some of the tools you use to get the point across.
Yeah, for this lesson, this was just a grammar part of a bigger part of this week's lesson. It was only actually 2 slides. And I had to do a lot of, um, not substitution, but I added a lot to it because the learning objective of it was for these 6 irregular past tense verbs. But the Florida Virtual School just spent one whole slide of it was just reviewing ED, regular past tense verbs, and the next page was just introducing the 6 words. There was no other activities or assessments with it. So for this lesson, I really just used the 2 slides to introduce the topic, and I supplemented that with the matching game, going to the board, and doing the popsicle sticks and the worksheet. So I do that. I find myself doing that a lot with the Florida Virtual School because there's not a big focus on grammar, whether it's because it's made for English-speaking students or not. I don't know if you're not supposed to learn at that age, but I try to go into it more in depth.
Right. And I think it's good to teach them what you did was, irregular. It's just not normal. It's different. I think a lot of kids maybe back in Canada or the States will already know that. So here, you have to kind of teach them what the word means first, and then to memorize what those irregular verbs are.
Yeah, those terms are just not applicable to 6 or 7 year olds. If you say, I think even to an English-speaking 6 or 7 year old, what's an irregular past tense verb?
Right.
Is it just not simple language?
It's tough one to get at.
That's not what I want you to learn. I just want you to learn how to use this.
Right. And when to hear it, right? When you hear it in a sentence. Okay. The logical sequence, I found you did this really well, starting with the easiest and going up to the hardest part of the lesson. Introducing the verbs in present first, and then switching to past, and then reading the sentence and finding the verbs that were irregular in the sentence. The only thing, all right, I'll talk about that later, but yeah, I thought that was a really good way to, first of all, see what the kids knew with present tense verbs, and then take it to the past, and then introduce the irregular verbs. That's cool. Okay, so then standard 8, I believe, instructional strategies. This was really good. I thought you kept the students engaged by moving around quite a bit. You didn't just keep them stationary, and you moved before they lost their interest, which is really important.
There was one time I put it in my annotations where I actually went back because you can see it on the video kind of clearly because Yuki's sitting in a very good spot when she took the computer off the table and she's like hiding it from me. But there's a camera right behind her and you can see she like switched over to Google or something.
Yeah.
So I brought her back and actually went back in the lesson a few minutes because half the reasons because I lose my train of thought when I have to stop a lesson like that and just to bring her back into it.
Yeah, okay. It's amazing how quickly with technology the kids can just get off track for a second.
Oh yeah.
And then what's great is they come back pretty quickly. So again, teaching the irregular verbs by way of hearing them in a sentence was a good method to teach. Because it's so easy for kids to understand a straightforward rule for verbs, but when it's irregular, I think you started, it was, I forget what the word was, but maybe saw or see, and they were like seed and saw. It was just, it's so easy for them to know when it's ED, but you can't just always do that.
Right.
Okay. Changing the location was great. The kids I remember when I was learning, I would, even in university, if the professor wrote something on the board in a certain spot, I would remember it because I would think about where he wrote it. So when you move the kids, they might go, oh yeah, I remember when we had to get up and go here, that's when we learned that. So it's a good way to do it. And then asking the higher order thinking questions, I thought maybe you could do this a bit more. Maybe get the kids talking about activities they do after school or on the weekends, and just get them thinking and asking each other questions, or where they may hear irregular verbs
Yeah.
more than other places.
Yeah, I could have paired them up for a speaking activity to talk about what you do last weekend. See if they can use some past tense verbs there.
But I mean, you don't want to cram too much into one lesson, so you always have time to do that.
Yeah. That's why for that go, I was like asking those kids if I heard any of them get it wrong, I was gonna get ready to jump on them because every Monday we talk about what you did on the weekend, and every Monday is I go, the person sitting there says that, and the other 5 of them scream at them.
Yeah.
You know, they all make the mistake every week.
Same in my class.
Everyone else can hear it when someone else says it wrong. When they're saying it, it comes out as go.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I think it's one of the most words I use in school is went.
Right.
Went.
Okay. So.
So overall, I thought it was pretty good, especially, like I said, I think keeping them moving, they were engaged, you knew your stuff, they seemed to be excelling and progressing. It was good.
All right. Thank you very much. We'll go through and do the questions about what I can do better and all that good stuff. Thanks,
Okay.
Steve.
All right.
Appreciate it.
See you later.